And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba and the Bloom, episode 160. We're here to recap some news, and plus being a Tuesday night, we got a Bloom board for you. K percentage, barrel percentage, risers and fallers from 2023 and 2024. Have some fun with that, and maybe some other shenanigans along the way. We shall see where things go. But you can find me on Twitter at BDEntry, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod, and my good buddy, co-host, as always, on Twitter at RyanBHQ. Ryan Bloomfield, how we doing, my friend?
Well, as you know from our little pre-pod chat, a little loopy tonight. Just getting stuff wrong. Can't read numbers. Just been a long day. Hoping and planning for the adrenaline of the pod to kick in here, and we'll have a good performance. But right now, I feel like George Kirby and what he did on Tuesday night, which was 11 earned runs. But we'll improve. We'll get better.
Yeah, George Kirby got smacked around. He got. Carpenter had his fun. Jake Rogers had their fun. Lots of stuff there. But we will have fun, as always, on this show, bringing you guys the news, notes, and more for your fantasy baseball needs. Before we get into that, real quick, FPAS, Ryan, FPAS. Anything you'd like to mention on FPAS as we are inching closer to making that deal happen?
Still looking to round out our fourth foursome. So anyone interested in playing November 3rd, hit us up. FPAS is still on a not the earliest of early bird discounts, but still a somewhat early bird discount in Arizona, October 31st. For us, November 1st through November 3rd. Yeah, man, we're like 2.5 months away, so it is not far out. It is not far out, and we'd love to have anybody who I have a annual, I guess, thing where anyone who is at first pitch, just come up to me, drinks on me.
First timer.
And if you listen to the show, first timer. Oh God, did I just offer drinks to the whole conference? See, man, I told you tonight's going to be a ride.
Yep.
If you listen to the show, maybe we'll surpass one and do a few more. But we'd love to have as many listeners out here as possible.
Oh yeah, no, we'll have a blast in doing so. And speaking of listeners, Ben Tidd had a good idea on the questions today. Let's recap the listener leagues because it's been a few weeks since we've done so. So I pulled up the overall standings, and in first place, it's new from the last time we talked. Brandon Snyder is leading the way here, which is cool. Mark Crom is in second place. They're in the same league, by the way. That's a fun one, back to back. Josh Wilder's in third. I believe he was in first last time we talked.
John Wilder, he was in first last time. Yep.
Some guy named Brent Hershey is in fourth, which is pretty amazing stuff. Good old Brent. Having to get him a jersey would be fun. I'll self-deliver that one in Arizona if so. Yep. Anthony Hamley is in fifth. It's the second guy from he's in the same league as Wilder. Greg Sheeran is in seventh. He's in my league. David Cray is in eighth. Daniel Thibodeau is in ninth, and Kevin Kelly is in 10th, rounding out the top 10 there. So not sure if you have any thoughts on anything going on there, but League 668 has 4 of the top 10 players.
Yeah,
and 5 of the top 11 and 6 of the top 13 if you really want to dig in. Good Lord.
Jeez, good That's a recall on the fly there. Is that one of my leagues or your leagues?
668. Let me check. I got it.
That's one of mine.
That makes sense because you're at the bottom, so you're helping push it up. So that's about right.
Hey, one thing that I have, and actually for all the new listeners out there, and given that this is mid-August, I doubt there are many, but if there are any new listeners out there, these listener leagues were auction leagues that we put together back in February, and it's just a league of leagues almost with 4 different listener leagues. I did 2, Bubba did 2. Bubba, you've fallen, man. I remember when we did our last update here, you were like 5th, and now you just rattled off 10 names, and I didn't hear. Brian.
I'm in 13th. I'm 3rd in my league, 13th overall. So that's been a wavering situation of late. The team is having a little, they're slipping to say the least, and Greg Sheeran's kind of starting to run away with that one. So that's going to be a tough one to win. My second team is 31st overall. So that's not where we want to be. But do you want to tell anybody where your 2 teams are?
Speaking of not where we want to be, I'll go. I'm at 41st and 50th. That is 60. These are 2 of my worst teams that I've had all year. And we will do postmortem shows and whatnot during the off season, but definitely going to look back and see what went wrong with these auctions. So yeah, 2, I'm in 11th in both my leagues, still fighting and clawing to get as high as I can. Love to finish upper half in each one. but at least I'm not in last. I was in last in one of them for the first couple months of the season. That was truly embarrassing. This one's only, slightly.
Yeah, but these are fun. We're seeing a lot of moving and shaking. People are still putting in the work to try to win. The overall champion gets a autographed jersey of their choice, preferably from someone on their winning team. And then there's also cash prizes if you win your actual league. So there's no overall cash prizes, but in your leagues, because everyone paid $50 for their team, there's money in the leagues as well. So that's pretty fun. And people are loving it. The whole goal for, like you said, if you have new listeners was to try some auctions. The NRBC has an amazing auction platform. Get some listeners involved, have an overall, and maybe grow it next year and have some more fun with it. So just wanted to update you. That was a good point by Ben because we haven't done that in a few weeks. So see where it is, and maybe we'll update you guys again at the start of September for the final stretch and see where things go on that one. All right, let's get to the news and notes for the day. Not a ton of news, to be honest, surprisingly, but there's a big one. Jazz Chisholm. He left Monday's game with an elbow injury, suffered sliding into home plate. X-rays are negative after the game. Chisholm said he felt great. He's going to go do an MRI, but doesn't think he needs it, blah, blah, blah. Had the MRI. He's got a UCL injury. UCL injury. So they don't know if he's going to need surgery just yet because he's not a pitcher and all. But he's going to the IL, and they're going to work on a timetable in the next few days for Jazz to come back. And honestly, Ryan, I hope we have a timetable by Sunday at 7 p.m.
Right, because and right now it sounds very ominous.
Yes, like for a month plus, like it's bad.
For as optimistic as Jazz himself sounded last night, even this sounds very ominous, and so we are certainly on cut watch. Certainly, I never quite feel bad for the Yankees, but this was pretty terrible timing given that they did go, I don't want to say all in on Jazz, but they put some chips in to acquire Jazz at the deadline. And for our fantasy teams, like Jazz has been a one-man show over but basically since he joined the Yankees. So it's brutal. It's one of those you hold on as long as you can until you get that, that timeline. But this is another one we kind of talked about last week. I think if Jazz is out for a month, I think he's probably bye-bye. Unless you've gotten lucky injury-wise elsewhere. Who do you think? I mean, they can't throw your boy DJ LeMahieu at third, right? He's been playing first base. Is it Oswaldo Cabrera? He's been good.
I think it's Oswaldo Cabrera should be the guy. Like the first thing people said is it could be a Cabrera LeMahieu platoon. I would just give it to Cabrera, honestly.
Yeah, I mean
the other guy to potentially look at is Oswald Peraza is starting to hit at AAA. That's the guy that, if we remember, like a year ago, he was the talk of the town. Who's Anthony Volpe? Who cares? We got Oswaldo Peraza. It was supposed to kind of be how things went, but he's picking things up, as they like to say. Here, let me pull up his splits if they exist. They will not exist because these are for the major leagues, so that doesn't do any good for me. But
you sound like me. You sound like me tonight.
We need major league splits, but that's what it was. It's the start of that's not going to work either. I just know he's starting to hit. I was reading an article on it today, and I'm trying to find he's hit safely in like 12 of his last 13. We'll just pick a July 21st All-Star break here for you in the minor leagues. Since then, he's hitting 296 with 7 home runs and 7 stolen bases. So Oswaldo Peraza is picking
Oswald
up in a big
Peraza. Yeah, these two are like it. It's just
I mess these names up.
Yes.
No matter what time of day it is and what day of the week it is, I've always messed these two up. So because they both came up at the same time, that was the same draft, and you were trying to figure out Cabrera, Peraza, Oswaldo. It was a freaking disaster, especially if you're drinking high noons and live drafting. Good Lord. But Peraza is the name that people are starting to say might get the call, actually.
Okay. If he does get the call, certainly interesting. I think for now the priority is Oswaldo Cabrera.
Yes.
Just for how good. I mean, he's basically been hitting almost 300 over the last month, 3 homers, a steal. Limited sample because of the lack of playing time since Jazz came, but so we'll see. Make sure you pick up the right one.
Yes. Make sure you listen to us on Thursday when we give you the FAB preview, and hopefully we pronounce everything properly for you. That's the best suggestion I have for you on that one. Junior Caminero, it has happened, Ryan. He got the call up. made the start on Tuesday, hitting 5th, went 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts on the day. But this is one we've been waiting for a long time. 59 games at AAA. He's here at 274 with 16 dongs and a stolen base. He's been injured off and on this season. And they did see our good buddy Brendan Tuma from Underdog tweet out, he's all, if my math is correct, if he plays every game from here on out, he won't be rookie eligible next year. So I'm really curious what the Rays do with this playing time, because that was the whole thing, is they expected him to stay down for like another week or two, and they didn't do that.
So Cameron, this is where, I mean, I love to see Cameron get called up. I personally think the timing is weird, because it's not just with rookie eligibility. It's not just at bats. It's days on the active roster. And if Cameron stays up the rest of the season, he will not be rookie eligible next year, no matter what he does, no matter how often he plays or doesn't play. The Rays needed to wait until roughly August 25th for that 45-day threshold to hit. And so the timing, to me, it was just weird from like a real baseball standpoint. Obviously, the Rays are much smarter than I am, especially in my Tuesday night state. But it was just kind of odd to wait 2 weeks before this kind of milestone, where if they waited 2 more weeks, Caminero would be rookie eligible next year. But whatever. Great to see the best players in the minors we should be able to see the best players in the majors. Like that's at the end of the day, that's what we want. So fab wise, like we'll talk a little bit more on Thursday, but like, honestly, I'm going to maybe be the low man here. Maybe you're low too, but like obviously a super huge talent, yada, yada. But if 2024 has taught us anything, hitting prospects on the whole have completely tanked. I would actually be more interested in Caminero if he continued what he did tonight, which is like 3 strikeouts this first week, just to suppress that fab price. Because if Caminero goes all out this first week, hits a couple homers, whatever, people are going to blow whatever they have left in fab this weekend.
Yep, I'll put those quote unquote keep them honest bids in. But if anybody listening to my bench with Bubba on Monday, my keep them honest bids are pretty low these days, like low. How did I get those guy lows in certain leagues? So I don't plan on getting Junior Caminero anywhere. And I agree, Joe. Rico's in the chat saying he doesn't think he'll stay up either. Like there's no reason to lose that rookie eligibility. Like zero reason to keep him down this long. There's zero reason to do that. So really curious to see how that one plays out. I'm not sure what the Rays are doing on this one. Very surprising. Zebby Matthews, big-time pitching prospect for the Minnesota Twins, got called up and made the start on Tuesday. I was in awe of looking at his stat line, because I'm not. We always say we're not prospect guys. We're not. So when Twitter comes to buzz, like I know who Junior Caminero is, I know who some of these guys are, but I have no idea who Zebby Matthews is. Zero clue. So I start looking at his Fangraphs pages and everything else, and I'm like, good Lord, dude started the year in high A, pitched in high A, double A, and triple A, made 17 starts. He had 114 Ks and 97 innings. I'm like, that'll play. 2.6 ERA. That's pretty good. And then I looked at that old control factor. 7 walks, Ryan. 7 walks in 97 minor league innings. Like, I understand, like, some are maybe in single A. I get it. But 7 walks. And then he followed it up on Tuesday night, throwing 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 0 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And he throws 5 pitches to top it off. This kid looks pretty darn good. And I don't want to overreact. It's a rookie, and we know there's going to be learning curves in the bigs, but that's pretty impressive stuff, honestly.
It's impressive stuff. Yes. I mean, this somewhat meteoric rise is certain, it gets our attention. And especially given 15 team, even in some 12s, the state of that pitching pool. Although this past week in Fab was pretty decent for pitchers, I thought. But Matthews is certainly interesting. Would be a 2-stepper next week. Would get San Diego on Monday and then St. Louis the following Sunday. So given what we saw tonight, which some of the like stuff scores and whatnot, the stuff graded out as like average, but the lack of walks were there. That was as advertised. So Zebby Matthews is one to consider this weekend. We'll have a little bit more on Thursday on his show, but 2-step that'll also pump the fab price this coming Sunday.
And obviously it correlates with Joe Ryan basically being done for the season.
Yeah.
We all thought it'd be Louis Varlin, and Varlin could still get some run here, but Matthews got the love on this one, because this should, and in most of our eyes thought this would be Varlin's turn. So Zebby Matthews getting the call is kind of a big deal for the Twins, at least in my opinion. So we'll see how that one continues to play out.
Did you get Varland in any fab leagues? I got
I got DL Hall
cheap,
though everywhere. I got DL Hall everywhere, and that they can sit back to AAA on Monday. Yeah. Zero idea what's going on there. Zero clue, but no one needs to hear me BS about that for a while because that was not very confused. Let's put it that way. Very confused on how that went. Andres Chaparro of the Washington Nationals. He was traded to the Nationals from the Diamondbacks for Dylan Floro. Chaparro was a 8-year minor leaguer before. He's only 25 though, so he was signed super young, obviously. But he figured things out this year, one would say, between AAA with the D-backs organization and now the Nats. He hit .328 over 105 games with 23 home runs and 3 stolen bases. And then it gets better. In his debut on Tuesday evening, Chaparro was playing first base, weirdly enough. They with Juan Yepes switching to designated hitter. Chaparro went 3 for 4, 2 runs scored, an RBI. He had 3 doubles in the game. All 3 hits were doubles for Chaparro. Dude made some massive improvements in the minors. 25 years old. He's playing first base on Tuesday. He was also third base in the minors, so you could see some action there. He's an interesting one to watch this week because Nationals offense pesky for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, pesky. And I mean, you would think the playing time is going to be there. Like you said, he played first tonight. Chaparro did, and like at third base, it's Jose Tena. That's not much there. So if Chaparro keeps playing, he's by default interesting at corner. But the HQ write up on Chaparro is pretty tepid. I don't know if this is a huge ceiling guy. As someone I think you just, if you fall into playing time, he stays hot. Ride him while you can. But I'm not super excited in the limited time that I have come to know Andres Chaparro.
Yep. It's been a journey. I want to say journeyman minor leaguer because 8 years, but dude's 25. So.
Yeah, but being that young, like I don't necessarily. I mean, 8 years is a long ass time. I don't hold it too much against him since he started at 17. But
that's nuts.
This isn't like really a prospect. It's just someone. It's a new face that you can potentially plug in at corner in deeper leagues.
Yeah, I remember when he got traded, there was some prospect guys going, "Oh, this is interesting. This is a good fill-in for Trey Lipscomb. This could be something to watch for coming up here." And soon enough, here we are. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Stop me, Brian. Chris Bryant back. No pun. Yes, pun intended. To the IL. It's just another every other month situation here for Chris Bryant. Jordan Beck got recalled from AAA, went 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts on Tuesday night. Could be in a platoon situation. Could play every day. We'll see. But more importantly, Chris Bryant back to the IL.
Yeah, I'm honestly not really sure why you put this in the rundown other than just your enjoyment to see Chris Bryant fail.
Yep.
But nothing actionable here for even the Jordan Beck thing. You mentioned the 3K. Strikeouts have been a massive problem for Jordan Beck, who I think has cost us in fab a couple times already this season. Don't make that same mistake a third time. Maybe at some point it hits for Jordan Beck, but the Ks for me are too much to overcome for the rest of 2024.
Yep. No, it's one I'll just kind of pass on. Black's back up with Milwaukee. I'll probably pass on that one as well.
Another fab legend turned pumpkin.
Yep. And then last but not least, I want to mention River Ryan going to have Tommy John surgery. That was announced on Tuesday. Landon Knack got recalled, and then Knack got the save on Tuesday because they beat up on Colin Ray in Milwaukee. So you've got the long multi-inning save for the Dodgers, but don't forget Walker Buehler's coming back either Wednesday or Thursday this week, which I'm assuming means Landon Knack goes back to AAA. So not a whole lot of moving parts. We already knew River Ryan was leaving the rotation. Just didn't want to see him leave this way.
Yep, exactly. It's just it's another in a unfortunately somewhat long line of Dodgers pitcher like severe injuries and just injuries so far this year. Like I don't know. It sucks. Hopefully we see River Ryan again and healthy in 2026 at this point, which sounds very far away.
Very, very far away. But what is not far away, it's Bloom Board time, Ryan. Let's talk Bloom Boards on a Tuesday night here. So what are we going to break down this evening?
All right, so this is one of the classics. We figure we bring it back for this mid-August edition, but these are the two hitter skills that I look at the most: strikeout rate and barrel rate. And I think for listeners out there, they're the easiest to follow, right? Because strikeout rate is, how often are you striking out? You want a lower strikeout rate. Your league average on that is like 22, 23%. Barrel rate is how often, when you hit the ball, how often is it a barrel, which is like a very well struck ball, high exit velocity, a line drive, fly ball, that sort of thing. So it's a great measure of contact and power. That's what we want. What we're comparing here is the highest risers, so the biggest improvers in both strikeout and barrel rate this season versus last year. So we're kind of taking the long view tonight, not kind of sizing this up in months or whatever, first half, second half. This is the full year compared to last year. So that's our green side for the watchers, the improvers, and then obviously the flip side. So we cover all angles here on Bubba and the Bloom, the positive and the negative. So we have our furthest fallers in red on the board here, which I tweeted out as well on Tuesday night in both strikeout and barrel rate from last year to this year. So 15 on each side. We won't hit them all, but we'll cover the ones we want to cover, ones you want to cover, the ones the chat wants to cover, whatever. We'll do it.
We will have some fun with this, and we don't need to dig too deep into Juan Soto, but just to see a guy go from 18% K to 15% and raise his barrel 13% to 20%, and then triple dong the night you make this Bloom board for the show is pretty impressive stuff for Mr. Juan Soto, who is going to make a ridiculous amount of money in the offseason.
Yeah, it will be astronomical, but it has been. I mean, this could be a career year for Juan Soto. Yes. I know he had the big year with the Nats, but this is massive in a pressure cooker of a situation in New York. I will admit, like, Soto for me was a first round fade. I guess we won't talk about him too much because it's just not much to say. First round fade for me, just because I thought in 5x5 the batting average wouldn't be there. That was wrong. He's hitting 300 and well into the 30s now with homers. Just a crazy year for someone who's about to get very, very rich.
Yep. Nope. It's going to be a monster year in the offseason for Soto for sure. Let's talk Brenton Doyle, a guy that we've talked about a few times on this show, but seeing this breakdown here, because one of the big bugaboos with Doyle was he strikes out too much. He's like the average will never be there. Well, it's a shocker. I hate to say it to people. A 26-year-old started improving his plate discipline. Brenton Doyle went from 35% to 27% in the K rate over the last year, and he saw the barrel rate go from 9% to 12%. This is a 2020 guy already last year, and now that he's got the plate discipline, he's in August and he's already at 2020. He's 20 homers, 23 steals with that improved K rate, and still has about a month and a half of baseball to go. So a lot of good things to see from Brenton Doyle.
Yeah, for sure. And I do hear you on the age 26, this is who he is. I think that's the wrong way of thinking. On the flip side, I don't think anyone saw this type of improvement from Brenton Doyle coming. To go from 35 to 27% strikeout rate, that is 35 is straight awful. 27 is still worse than average, but for as good a power as Brenton Doyle has and the speed game, like you said, Bubba, he was basically a 2020 guy already. For Doyle to be able to improve the strikeout rate that much, you rarely see an 8-point improvement in strikeout rate from year to year. That's massive. He's cut down on the whiffs to kind of support that, and still running, right? Already has those 23 steals. And I think most important, it's not just Brenton Doyle selling out for that contact. He's on this list because he also has an increase in barrel rate too. So it's just wild to see this kind of across the board improvement to this magnitude that we've seen from Brenton Doyle. That has been an absolute, given Doyle's ADP. I mean, he was outside the top 350. Oh, yeah. I want to say at least. He was kind of like a draft and hold streamer in the 30th round type of thing. And that has been one of the picks, low key, one of the picks of the year for 2024. Yeah. I want to see where's he at in the player rater.
Oh, he's
30th, top 30.
So he's got to be up there. Because towards at least middle of draft season, it was Doyle and I can't remember the other outfielder's name that they were fighting. I don't think it was Bouchard. I think it was somebody else. They were fighting for the center field role essentially, and everyone's like, "Well, Doyle has got tons of speed and amazing defense, so that should win him the job." That was the argument, not the power and this other stuff. It was that the speed and the defense would win him the job, and here he is into August, just crushing baseballs and a staple in the Colorado Rockies lineup. Elly De La Cruz, anything to say about him? Because he improved. He said 35% K rate sucks. Well, 34% from Elly Cruz. He goes to 32%. What do you say about that, Ryan?
Yeah, that's technically an improvement, but negligible. No, like Elly can be a 30% K rate guy. I don't really care. Yeah. I don't think fantasy wise we really care. The improvement for me, my big thing with Elly, again, he's so talented. The strikeouts are going to be there. Whatever. The thing for me with Elly De La Cruz was the ground ball rate. I think it was the second highest ground ball rate of any hitter outside of Tim Anderson last season. And Elly's hitting the ball we knew he could hit it hard, but he just didn't hit it in the air. And that's where we're seeing the uptick in this barrel rate, because obviously no barrels can be ground balls. You can hit them hard, but they're not barrels. Elly De La Cruz, his fly ball rate has jumped from 22% last season to 34% this year with a 45% ground ball rate. Like for Elly De La Cruz, that's the perfect batted ball profile. I think he's figured that out. You don't want to go like totally, all out for fly balls because you have that speed with Elly. But for me, this is really just Elly De La Cruz adjusting that launch angle, as they say, since really the strikeout rate is still very high. Hard contact's always been there. He's now making that hard contact work for him. And then obviously, I mean, we haven't even talked about the steals, 59 bags. Like, dude, again, the lazy question. We have our 2025 draft next Wednesday. Top 5 pick.
Yeah, we talked off air, and next Tuesday's show will kind of be a preview of the draft, but I think he falls out of that core 3 or 4 we talked about, and so he's probably sitting around 5 or 6. I think that's where does our buddy Venancio draft? That's where he's got a good shot to go.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, wherever Ryan Venancio drafts,
yeah,
might be where, unless it's the back half. You may have a decision to make at 8. I think Elly. We'll talk about this more next week, but if Elly fell to you at 8.
Depends if my other guy's there or not.
Yeah, here we go. All right, more to come next week.
Yep. That's called the tease, folks. All right, I'm gonna talk Brandon Lowe because I give Brandon Lowe a lot of crap on this show. His back's better than Chris Bryant's, but not saying a lot. Brandon Lowe has improved his K rate from 27 to 25%. Barrel rates, though, has improved from 11 to 15%. He's always had power. It's the staying on the field, and the strikeouts have been the issue because it affects his batting average, obviously. Because on the season now, he's hitting 257 entering Tuesday. That's the best average he's had since 2020. It's been down at 231 and 221 the last 2 years. He's had lower batting averages before, but this is it's the second best of his career, I should say. But the power is legit. He's running. He's still not healthy. He's only played 69 games coming into Tuesday. So I still kind of get support on that. But when he's been healthy, especially like the last month or so, we've seen a very, very good fantasy ball player. So I'll tip my cap to him in that regard. But for long-term fantasy, it's very difficult. Let's put it that way.
Right. Impressive that Brandon Lowe is doing this, and even more so impressive that he's doing this while basically being hurt, because we know these back injuries don't just disappear when you're activated off the IL most times. But despite the improvements, like, this is still one of the guys, I mean, you nailed it. This is still one of the guys I'm pretty low on, just because the injury risk is still there. And even when Brandon Lowe is healthy, it's a platoon. So like, you cannot count on the volume for Brandon Lowe for any extended stretch of time. So like, while Brandon Lowe is hitting, while they're facing right-handers, that's great and all. This is some nice improvement, especially in the power department, but still not trusting the guy long term.
Yep, that is totally fair. The next one here is fun because sometimes when we look at players, especially earlier in the season, you're wondering, man, how are they doing this? This just doesn't work. And Jurickson Profar was that guy early on. Like, we talked about him on waiver shows earlier in the year, and it was a lot of people were just like, no. And dude made the All-Star team, and kind of deservedly so, honestly. And he's improved his K rate from 17 to 14%. His barrel rate's gone from 4 to 8. And to throw in here, because one of the arguments always is, well, look at the BABIP. It's through the roof compared to the past. That's why his batting average is up to 297. Well, let's throw in another fun one here, because you have K percentage and barrel. His hard hit rate's 42.6%, by far the best of his career. So what I'm trying to say here before I hand it off to Ryan is Profar's backing up the production. There's like stats that back up the production. Yes, the BABIP's high, but when you hit the ball hard on the ground and whatnot, that'll help your BABIP, obviously. So there's stuff supporting the improvements, what I'm trying to say, where earlier in the year, a lot of us were like, how's he doing this? Is this legit? Blah, blah, blah. He's proven it for 4.5 months now.
And that's kind of what I'm seeing too. Like, and I'm glad we're doing this exercise because I haven't checked in on Profar in a little while. And you're right. Like, I still think Profar ran so pure in the first.
I'm scared to draft him for next year. I'm scared to draft him. I'll be 100% honest there, but yeah.
But I mean, the dude has mashed in like as the season has gone on. He's to double your barrel rate is pretty incredible when in the first half it wasn't really all that hot. So Jurickson Profar, like for as much crap as we gave him saying sell high, and that's an L for me. I did not think the skills supported what Profar did in the first half, but he's hitting for a ton more power as really the summer has rolled on and not really slowing down at all in strikeouts, even improving that too. So just an awesome year for Jurickson Profar, not to mention the like 297 batting average, the 6 bags, but also those hidden runs in RBI. He's basically at 70 already, which playing every day for the Padres this year, that'll work.
Yeah, like I said, pretty much a fab pickup early in the year. Not many people even drafted Profar, maybe a few, but not many. So that just goes to show you more of kind of out of nowhere, and he's continued to do it, which has been pretty cool. I want to hit on Salvador Perez because I'm a guy that covers catchers. We all know that by now. And everyone's saying like he's 34 this year. Like, when's this going to end? And Jay Melendez is there. Freddie Fermin is a very quality backup. I know I've said that about Fermin, so on and so forth. Well, Salvi continues to prove us wrong. Dude is having another amazing year. This year he's dropped his K rate from 23 to 20%. Barrel rate's risen from 9 to 12. You know what's also really cool, Ryan, besides the usual 20-plus homers and everything? Dude's got a 340 OBP because he's walking 7% of the time, which he never does. Like in Tout Wars or any other OBP leagues, Salvador Perez was just like a skip. You do not draft Salvi. He is going to destroy your team. If it's the 1 year he forgets to hit home runs, you're done. So you just skip him. He's even doing that this year. So at 34 years old, he's not skipping a beat. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think we got a listener question like which one's the most surprising on like either of these two lists, and I think for me it's Salvador Perez just because of like how old, how established he is for Perez to all of a sudden. Yeah, we don't even have the walk rate on here because in fantasy we don't really care about walk rate unless they run. But Salvador Perez is doing this while doubling his walk rate, which is just nuts. He is the number 2 catcher this year in fantasy behind behind your boy. Yeah, behind King William. Or Prince William. I guess he's king now, but
yes, he's king now. He's earned it.
He's king now. But no, just super impressive from Salvador Perez, like from someone who at best case, we thought we knew who he was. At normal case, you'd think this would be like an age-related decline, and instead Salvador Perez has done the exact opposite. Just a crazy good year. Not quite 2021 year, but that was just epic. But hitting 280, 21 homers, almost 80 RBI is just, as a catcher, is just awesome.
It's like you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, but they DH him, they catch him. He plays first when Pasquantino is hurt, so they kind of keep him fresh in that regards. But I say that thinking he's still 34. As many years as he's caught, how do you stay fresh in the grand scheme of things? It's hot and humid in Kansas City. The bright side is that team's getting younger and better, so his like counting stats will continue to improve. I'm just wondering how much longer he can do it. He's going to be 35. Like, I'm 40. I know I'm not a professional athlete.
We know.
And no offense to Salvi, but he's not like molded in, he's not in Athens, getting ready for the future Olympics or something. So
he's not, but he's just like so damn dirty. I mean, literally once a month you'll see like Salvador Perez caught last night, a foul ball off his thumb and had to amputate his thumb, reattach it, but he'll be in there tomorrow, and then he like hits a home run. It's been that way for years with this guy. It's incredible, man.
Yep. So like I'm trying to figure out again. It'll be a question for next week, but it'll be: does he drop because of his age? And if so, that becomes very enticing. That's very, very interesting. And in a DC, you just go and draft Freddie Fermin late. That's just what you do, and that makes it pretty easy. So kind of a fun drill, but again, that's for next Tuesday. Jake Cronenworth, just wanted to bring him up because we have another San Diego Padre on the list, and everyone wanted to draft Jake because he had the big 3-hit game in Korea, and then he's carried it over. 19% K rate last year, 18% this year, but the barrel rate jumping from 4 to 9% brings us hints of good old Rake Cronenworth out there with the 14 home runs so far this year, 248 average. He's basically starting to put up the numbers we saw in 21 and 22, which is a very, very productive multi-positional ball player, Ryan. So what do you have on Jake Cronenworth?
And not only just multi-position, but yeah, it's first and second. So thus corner and middle, which given the number, not quite Rengifo level legend, but we know how important that is once those injuries start piling up. So great year for Cronenworth. I will admit things have slowed down quite a bit for him. He's hitting 217 since July 1st with just 2 home runs and 128 plate appearances. So we have seen the best of Cronenworth already this season, but certainly playing with house money at this point when he picked up Cronenworth for his Korea series, and then just he keeps hitting, and he's just on your team all year. Like that's a nice little boon in Fab or late in drafts.
And what's even crazy, Pat Monahan says Cronenworth did a lot of damage early. That is correct. What's crazy with Cronenworth, if he could just get a hot streak again, no matter if he's hitting or not hitting, the Padres have him hitting like third in the order.
He's playing, yes.
Yeah. Like, so if they don't like move him down when he's slumping or something, he's still a third in the batting order. So it just takes like one game to put up 4 RBIs and we forget all about like a week of struggles type thing. And it's pretty easy for him in that regard. So that's pretty nice. JJ Bleday, just wanted to mention him just because people think he's just a streaming outfielder in this, that. And he kind of is. I get it. But he's at least shown some market improvements to show some of the support for what he's done this year. 24% K rate dropped to 18%. 6% barrel rate rose to 8% this year, playing every day in the outfield, usually hitting second or third in the A's lineup, lefties, righties. It doesn't matter. He's out there every day. So there's a lot to like about JJ Bleday. He's only 26 also. It feels like we've talked about him forever with the Marlins system, and when's he going to get called up? Another young ball player that honestly we might not have seen the best of him yet, which is fun to potentially think about because he still walks over 10%. Didn't run this year at all, which is kind of surprising. But there are some definite improvements that are good to see with Bleday. Besides playing every day, I loved seeing the fact that he started to hit lefties because that makes him an everyday player, and that's what we want to see in fantasy.
Yep, and tons of this is a guy out of Florida, picked 4th overall in the 2019 draft. So the pedigree's been there. It's just taken a while for JJ Bleday. The improvement in strikeout rate for me is huge because the power's been okay, but okay power with a worse than average strikeout rate is just something that's not all that interesting to me. This will be beat to death over the offseason, but JJ Bleday and his 48% fly ball rate in Oakland, that's going to be death on your batting average. In Sacramento,
it's going to be glorious.
With the power that JJ Bleday has, if he's hitting 50% fly balls, look out for that home run total. Again, this will be talked about, the park factor change from Oakland to Sacramento a ton this offseason, but I think JJ Bleday is like the dude who benefits a ton from this move, just given how many fly balls he hits and the power that he has.
Yep. It's going to be, that's a whole nother like week-long set of podcast to break down the A's schedule and the fantasy viability on these teams, like getting Derek Carty to do park factors and projections. And that's going to be wild to see the bat projections for with Sacramento, because Carty will incorporate Sacramento park factors. So just be prepared for that. That'll get really interesting. I don't know how that incorporates 100 degrees every pretty much day, but there's got to be something there. And that'll be fun to check out for sure. The last one I wanted to hit up, because like Brent Rooker has been amazing, but we've talked about that a lot, unless you want to discuss Brent Rooker. But I just wanted to bring up Anthony Santander again, because to see him drop his K rate 4% from 23 to 19% and still raise his barrel from 10 to 12%, hit home run number 36 on the year on Tuesday night. He's a switch hitter, which is good, but so he doesn't get hurt all the time by the death trap that is in Mount Baltimore, whatever they call it out there. That's not crushing him, but we're seeing the dude just each year has improved, and this year has just been nuts. Age 29, and Santander has been a beast, but the strikeout improvements is pretty sweet.
I just pulled this up while you were talking. Santander, I think very quietly, over the last 3 seasons has the 7th most home runs in all baseball, which is
that's outstanding.
Kind of crazy. So this has always been a huge power hitter, always been a huge fly ball guy, and he's even leaning into that even more. Santander was a 50% fly ball guy, which we just talked about with Belday. That's pretty extreme. Dude's at 58%. That has to be at or near the top in all of baseball for the number of fly balls that he hits. So that is also why Santander's only hitting 243 despite the improvement in K rate. But that's extreme nitpicking. This is a guy who is playing every day in Baltimore, which 71 runs, 79 RBI, like that is absolutely huge. And yeah, this is 40 plus home run power, no matter how tall the wall is in Baltimore.
Well done. Yes, Santander leads baseball qualified hitters in fly ball percentage at nearly 58%.
Yeah.
Dalton Varsho's at 55. Raleigh is at 52.5, and Reese Hoskins at 51. Everybody else is below 50%. So, yeah, he's easily the top dog in that one, and then he's also got like a 44% pulled percentage, which obviously helps things when we talk about power in a big way. All right, anybody else on the green side? Because I think I hit most of the big ones there. It makes me laugh that Will Brennan only had 2% barrel last week.
That's where I was going, man. You left out my guy.
It shocked me because he was tearing it up like a fantasy gold mine off the wire last year, and somehow only had a 2% barrel rate.
Left off my guy, man. Will Brennan, give him. No, he's actually hasn't improved. Like, he improved from a 2% barrel rate to a 6%, which is again league average barrel rate. I think is like 9%, something like that. So no, Will Brennan is on here because he improved from very bad to bad. I think the one name to bring up, unfortunate suspension aside, is Jarren Duran. I think on the field, this guy has been. He is. So I run this poll every year, every season, someone outside the top 12 rounds and 15 teamers ends up posting first round value. Eric Cross actually might have nailed this. He responded with Jarren Duran, who is number 13 overall in baseball right now on the player rater and fully skill supported with dropping that K rate. Not only this from last year to this season, Duran, every year he's been in the big leagues. It's started 36th, then 28th, then 25, now 22% strikeout rate. So consistent improvement. The big thing with Duran has been the power. A lot of it's been opposite field power, kind of those doubles off the monster, triples off the monster. But I don't know. Speaking of monster, stat wise, this guy, you tack on the 30 steals that he has, 80 runs scored leading off for Boston. Sorry, Jarren Duran has been on the field excellent and a first round player at a very cheap price.
Yep, I agree. He's been an absolute stud on the field this year. Hopefully he can get whatever he needs to get figured out, because we know he's mentioned a lot about the field issues he's had, not to mention just what took place the other day. So he's got a lot going on between the ears and needs some help. So we'll see how that goes.
Real quick. I think back to Santander, Pat in the chat. Santander's going to get a pretty nice deal next year and probably go to a better park. So I did not realize that was Santander. Taking notes for next week's draft. Santander,
go sign him. Oakland A's, go sign him with that fly ball rate. Come on, baby.
If I was a free agent, you'd have to pay me double the market to move to. Not to offend our Sacramento listener base, it's too damn hot there in the summer to play baseball. So he'd have to sign for a ton.
Almost in my backyard. I'm lived close by there for years.
Yep.
All right. Mitch Garver leads the way here. I don't want to talk about Mitch Garver. He's been so insanely bad, but at least it checks out the K percentage increase, barrel percentage drop. I want to start with Matt Olson, because this is one of those that all season long, everyone's like, he's going to improve. He's going to improve. But dude, strikeout rate is back up to 28%. That's a strikeout rate we remember seeing when he couldn't hit for average. He was 28 to 31%, give or take. And then we're seeing the barrel rate drop from 16 to 12%. That's the one that really surprises me, because even when he'd strike out in the past, he'd still find a way to barrel the ball up. and he's not doing that, which makes me want to look at one more thing before I pass the torch here. Ground ball rate's about the same, so that's really not what I want to see. With he's got a big drop in hard hit rate too. So, what are you thinking when you look at Matt Olson? Because I've even watched him the last 2 days as he takes on the Giants here in San Francisco, and he's got some pitches to hit, and it just turns into kind of not even warning track fly balls to center type stuff. He just looks like he's missing everything completely.
Yeah, I know, agreed. And I keep kind of waiting, and I was one of those, like, just wait for this. Matt Olson will come around. We have an extended track record of Matt Olson being like the best power hitter in baseball, and it just hasn't happened. The power has come back a little bit, like 8 home runs since July 1st, had 12 in the entire first half, but certainly not to Matt Olson standards. And even in the second half, the strikeout rate has gone up even more. So it's just, I don't know. This is kind of a classic case of this previous draft season buying someone. And I drafted Matt Olson in I think one league, buying someone coming off a career year. It rarely works out. That said, the flip side can be true. Buying someone like Matt Olson coming off a really down year with many years of an excellent track record, and he'll only be 31 next year. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Matt Olson, if the discount's there, I have no idea what his price will be if Matt Olson is on a bunch of Bloom squads next year.
Yep, no, that one becomes very enticing, to say the least. He'll be kind of going in that Pete Alonso realm again, and that'll be fun to see how those two, because Alonso's been disappointing as well. So that'll make things quite interesting. Jorge Polanco, we've seen the fall, but he's actually improved over the last month or so. He's battling a knee injury, so I'm going to skip to Zach Geloff. I'm going to get this out of the way.
There we go. Yep, here we go. This is what I wanted. I'll shut up for a couple minutes and just take my victory lap. It might take a couple. I might take a couple laps. It'll be a couple more minutes, but yeah, go ahead.
I would say on Bubba and Bloom, we do take our L's on this show. That's not something we avoid. Zach Geloff, big L. Him and Thairo Estrada was always, I want to get one of those two type situations. And thank God I didn't get them all the time, because you listeners are awesome. So I'm going to say thank you for that. But I did have plenty shares of either Geloff or Estrada. There's no denying that. But Geloff, his K rate went from 27 to 35%. And I even admitted he'd strike out too much, but I did not think this would happen. I'm very much going to be in line with that. The barrel rate went from 11 to 9%. That is not ideal either. Dude does have 15 home runs. He did have 14 last year in 69 games. He's at 95 games now, but 14 steals. So I said he'd be a 20-20 guy. He could still get there. The 201 average is crushing you. And that's in large part due to more strikeouts. And when we look at a profile with a 43% ground ball rate, that won't help either. He had 41 in the bigs last year, so it is what it is. But just way too much swing and miss. The zone presence is less than ideal, is what I would say, because when you look at his O swing, it's like a 27% O swing. The zone contact's only 75%. You'd want more in these situations, is the best way I can say it. So, yeah, it's a bummer with Zach Geloff. He is 24 years old, so I think there's room for improvement. He's a guy that I'd be interested in taking as a middle infielder late in a draft to see where that thing falls to, because he is still super young. Again, going to Sacramento next year, could play well into the power department, but he's got to work on his plate discipline thing, because he's moving towards a Javi Baez profile, which is not great. But one other thing I will say, because I don't have MLB Network on YouTube TV, that's a long, annoying situation that I don't want to give anybody the problem with anymore. So I either watch, if the Giants aren't on, I watch the A's games here. And so I've watched a lot of Geloff. He's been super streaky this year. It's been really weird with him. It's like he's hitting again this last week, but then he'll go on a week good, 3 week bad. That's the problem with him right now. And that's because he's got the hole in his swing. And that's where things get rough. But this is me taking my L. It's been a very disappointing season, but I'm not giving up on the kid. I think there's more to like in the future. And in the end, the big deterrent that Ryan had in his argument against me was the counting stats, because he's in Oakland.
Yes.
That's fair. That's fair. 42 runs, 39 RBIs. That is dreadful. That is putrid. He had those numbers in 69 games last year with the A's. He's played 95 this year. So that is the big winner for you. Yes, you got that one nailed. But like I said, I'm still in on this kid. He's 24, and I think there's better days ahead.
But honestly, though, I mean, the Oakland thing is interesting because, again, that was one of the big reasons I was fading Geloff, is because the team context was so bad. turns out like Oakland actually is a lot better than we thought. So I don't even know if
but when he was hitting well last year, he's hitting like cleanup. This year, he's hitting 8th or 9th the whole time because he wasn't playing well, and that kind of crushes it as well.
This is also someone who had an oblique injury at the end of April and missed, I think, 3 weeks with that oblique. So that's another, again, kind of potential factor. Did he come back too early? What did he try and play through it and then finally went on the IL? I don't know the nature of the oblique, but that could have certainly have played a factor in Zach Geloff. I'd be interested again next year, actually, to throw this out to you since you mentioned Thairo Estrada. I mean, who would you rather next year? They were both huge busts for Estrada for both of us. I think I'd go Geloff.
I'd go Geloff. I think Estrada, between way too many injuries, it was a massive fall off for him. Or at least Geloff, you can kind of look at it, and it's a lot of swing and miss and this and that. Where Estrada, just even when he was healthy, was not there. It was bad all around. So I'd go with Geloff for me.
And Geloff, you're still getting agreed. You have a 15-15 season, despite how much we've bagged him for those last couple minutes. Like, it's still 15-15, approaching 20-20. Estrada famously has attempted 3 steals all year.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, now the fun part is who's to say he doesn't all of a sudden start running next year again, and now we're back to like, wow, this is great. And we've seen that on many teams in many years. Like, all out of nowhere, here comes so-and-so again. Makes no sense whatsoever. And the way the Giants season has gone with Matt Chapman stealing like crazy, I wouldn't be shocked if Estrada starts running next year. I think there's more underlying injuries with Estrada that we don't know about, because there's no other reason for him not to run. There's no reason for him not to run. So, yeah, confused, to say the least. But that's probably way too much time on Geloff, but I just wanted to take my L, let everybody know, yes, this is how it goes here on Bubba and the Bloom. I want to ask about Lowe, because this is one where we saw some pretty serious production from him. I think people thinking, yeah, dude's going to be back to, this beast, but now it's 12 homers, 17 steals, 198 batting average. Things have, one may say, cooled off rapidly for Lowe. 29% K rate last year to 37% this year. Saw his barrel rate go from 15 to 14. So a lot of swing and miss in Lubob's situation. So what are your thoughts on him? Because this is a second-round player in the past, but the production this year doesn't warrant a top 100 pick.
And the injury bug came back.
That's never going to leave. It's never going to leave.
Right. And obviously the team context is just terrible, and I don't see that improving in 2025. Skills-wise, I take this with a giant grain of salt for Lowe, for Luis Robert. Like, given that he missed 2 months, we only have a sample. I think I said a minimum of 250 plate appearances on this list, and Luis Robert has 263. So he's very close to not even being on this list because he just hasn't played enough. So my takeaway from an actual skills perspective, I don't read too much into this. Dude is super talented, super young. Well, maybe not super young. He'll be 28 next year, but young enough to where this shouldn't fall off a plate like this. Yeah, it is young. It is young to you.
Yeah.
And me, but no, the skills, the skills are the least of my concerns with Luis Robert. It's him being on the White Sox again next year and the laundry list of injuries that have now plagued him in his young career.
Yep, no, it's pretty perplexing, but I'm with you. Just that team alone, it's kind of like the Geloff conversation. But at least Geloff, you get 200 picks later, so that's fun there. Michael Harris, he's been hurt a ton. Production was down. He comes back on Wednesday, by the way. So when you're listening to this, he should be back. And it looks like Adam Duvall is going to be hasta la vista in that one. So keep an eye there in Atlanta. But I got nothing to really say on Harris unless you wanted to hit on him.
No, I mean, that would be in the spirit of taking L's with Geloff. I mean, Michael Harris was like my dude in the late second round, early third round this year, and just it has not worked at all. I need to do a little bit of a deeper dive and kind of see what's going on, but it's certainly a terrible year for any teams that took Harris, because you thought you were getting a bunch of bags, getting 5 category production at early hitter spot, probably surround him with a couple pitchers, and it unraveled. So not sure what I'll do with him for next year. Maybe these last 6 weeks will give us a little bit more info.
Yep, for sure. Bubba Shed, I think I've taken enough L's on that one. I think
I'll spare you the.
I think we're good there. And he's starting baseball activities, everybody. do not go at him. I want to get to Gleyber Torres because this one I've seen our buddy Torres takes on Twitter tweet out, I believe on
Not
Monday.
related. Not related.
Yeah, not related, but he did say, hey, I was in on Gleyber Torres this year. A lot of people were out. What did I miss on this one? Because, I liked Gleyber. I thought that he was a value at the position, back-to-back 20-plus homer seasons, back-to-back 3 straight 10-plus steals, decent batting averages. But this year, 238 average, 10 homers, 4 steals is dreadful, and it correlates with the strikeout rate going from 15 to 22%, barrel rate 8 to 7%. So it was a massive change. Feels like change in approach just looking at strikeout differences like that. But maybe it's 21's more like what he had the previous 2 seasons before last year. But when you look at a guy like Gleyber Torres, what stands out to you? Because this is a massive fall in production, not to mention he looks like he does not want to be there at all.
Yeah, like that's that recently. I mean, he does not want to be there, certainly, and has fallen out of the good graces of manager Aaron
Boone's
Boone
a tool too. So I'm sorry, but watching the way he manages that team, I think if they didn't have some guys like Judge and Soto to kind of control the locker room, Boone would get his butt kicked around there.
Good point. It's a good point. I have no idea how this. So, I have no idea how this happened with Gleyber Torres. I had Gleyber Torres's box in the Baseball Forecaster, and I finished it off with this feels like 25-10 production. So 25 homers, 10 steals production. You can confidently bank. Like this is someone at age 27 season, super consistent skill set. 3 years in a row with 10 plus steals. Last 2 seasons, 24, 25 home runs. Like I don't know how you could have seen this coming. I don't have a ton of Gleyber, but like we could keep rattling off skills, and it is that bad. It's I don't know. We kind of wrote off the first month or so because he got hit I believe in the hand or the wrist, like in the second game of the season. But I don't think that's the reason now that we're in August. So I don't know, man. I have no idea how this happened, and quite honestly, no idea what to do with Gleyber Torres for next year.
Yeah, he's a perplexing one to say the least. Talk about Max Kepler. Just a guy we know is always going to miss about 30, 40, 50 games every year. That's just what he does. But when he plays, you got 20-plus homers, decent, like 250 average, solid OBP skills, leads off for the Twins. There's a lot of optimism when Max Kepler is involved. But this year, we've seen the K rate go from 22 to 21%. Okay, but 12% barrel to 7%.
Yeah,
power depletion. Now, injuries could have a factor in that. That's definitely a thing with Kepler because he only has 7 homers in the 92 games. Still hitting 266, which is cool. But that barrel rate drop also coincides with a pretty good drop in almost a 9% drop from last year in hard hit rate. And we're seeing, it's been a massive decline because the ground ball rate and fly ball rates are pretty much intact. So what do you see with Max Kepler? Like the only thing that I could see out like initially is it could be injury related, but maybe not. Is there something else there?
Or just a down year? I mean, I don't know. Barrel rate skills can fluctuate just like, surface stats can, and maybe this is that. But very quietly, Kepler, we talk about the line change every Thursday with the Twins when they face right-handed pitching, and like it's kind of assumed that Kepler is a go in those weeks, but kind of didn't realize he has just 7 home runs and 350 plate appearances. Like that's low-key terrible.
Yeah, I was surprised by the 7 home runs when I pulled the page up. I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, like God.
Trevor Larnach is playing better than Max Kepler.
Yeah, and hitting second.
Yeah, but I just want to make that point to listeners because Larnach's available on pretty much every waiver wire these days, where Kepler's maybe available like 50%.
Yeah, he's the new king of that line change, I guess.
No, the king of that line change is Matt Wallner.
Crown him. But breaking news on the pod. I don't know if we can see this. We have this will change. We have a tweet from our friend Vlad Sedler, RotoGut, says, I think Max Kepler is about to get hot. So we might see it. We might see it. He's got a gut feel. So we'll see. Oh, I hope it does. I have plenty of Kepler.
Yeah, let's hope the gut was right on this one because let's hope so. That'll be a fun one indeed. Anybody else on the faller side? Because I'm not going to make you sit through Paul Goldschmidt again. Make me sit through Bichette.
God, Yeah.
Bryce Harper on this list is kind of interesting, just to be honest, because he's still a beast. But that's an interesting one. Anybody else like Ed Rosario's dust. Jack Sawinski's in the minors, so it's been a rough go there.
Yeah, going back to Kepler. He has already been a little warm lately. Home run tonight.
3 for 5 with a home run tonight.
Yeah, so
perfect time for that tweet to come out.
Maybe we'll see more. Yeah, the Harper thing's interesting, but like honestly, it's the same K rate, a 4% drop in barrel. Like not what you expect, but nothing too alarming. Thank you for making me skip Goldschmidt or Old Schmidt. I do want to run a little study on kind of how the boring old guys did this season. I'm sure we'll probably talk about it in a recap episode or something this fall. But I wonder out loud if I'm a little bit too lenient on those boring old guys, and I kind of get the, get more bad than good with some of those guys. But we'll see.
I love this quote. Seth Brown had to drown so Brent Rooker could swim. That's pretty good. Pat Monahan, that's a good one.
Seth Brown's coming back a little bit.
He is coming to earth. He's coming back to earth, is what I'll say. And he's streaming over
where?
Pitching.
Like from hell back up.
Oh, that's the bathrooms at the Coliseum. So he's making his way back on that one. Like my God, I don't know if I know like the word barstool gets a lot of people cringed, but some of their guys are actually normal human beings, and they had a couple of baseball guys flew out there for the White Sox A series, and they took a picture of the urinals in the men's room. My God, those are horrific. Like I've been to a lot of stadiums with urinals. At least they look that these things. Some of the pipes were off. Like it was just all. It was so bad, man. It was just so bad. That stadium.
I don't think Oakland A's ownership really cares. So.
No, they give two rear ends about that one. That is for sure. All right, that'll wrap up the Bloom Board segment of the show. Let's get to a couple listener questions. You guys actually came through. I know it's been quiet on the listener streets because it's that time of the year, but we'll start with John Wilder, who was leading last time we talked about the leagues, and now he's back saying, "Did you see that dummy in our league at Molly for $78 and there's no backup bid? Oh, wait, I see. I am that dummy. Feel free to share with your audience on how not to do fab." Well, Tyler Molly pitched well on Monday, so I'll give you that. But I was shocked by the prices, not by John's, but just in general. A lot of 15s, he went for a lot of money.
He did. At least it wasn't a different Molly or something. So, I mean, I will fully admit to taking the wrong Festa. So it was certainly a better bid than that. And honestly, even, I mean, this late in the season, if you have fab money to burn, I know you don't, but like, don't worry. I mean,
don't worry
about 6 more fab periods to go. So like, if you have the money, get your guy. Don't worry too much about budget at this point. If you haven't spent as much as you wanted to and you have extra fab, like you don't get to take it with you. So $70 over if you have 400 left or whatever. It's really not that big of a deal at this point in the season. Not ideal, but not worth beating yourself up over.
For sure. Daniel Broderick says Juan Soto's barrel percentage is higher than his K percentage. Yeah, that's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. I wanted to, if I had time before the show tonight, I was going to see if anyone else in baseball can claim that. I don't know. I don't think so. That's really hard to do. And not only is it hard to do, but Juan Soto, it's not even close. Juan Soto, 20% barrel, 15% K, and probably had 3 more barrels tonight with the triple dong. So like it's just unbelievable how good he's been.
Yeah, he's been ridiculous. And I just wanted to look it up again. I feel like Soto or somebody had it last year, but it doesn't work when what I'm looking at. But it's pretty crazy stuff. It's like the old stat with like Tony Gwynn had more home runs than a strikeout rate or something. In seasons, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Michael Cicchini says Soto continuing to improve is scary. Wish I'd predicted Doyle dropping Ks by 8% and raising his zone contact by 6%. Biggest surprises on the list. I think we both were thinking Salvi was quite the surprise. Anybody else that stood out to you in a big way?
Pretty much any of these like older established guys. So Salvador Perez for sure. Kleber Torres on the opposite side, Matt Olson on the opposite side were surprises to me. And I have to throw Jurickson Profar in there. It's like, this dude's like old and hasn't done anything for a long time, and all of a sudden he's awesome. So those would be the big ones that stick out to me as just surprisers.
Yep, that makes sense. BP at futures_bet says Elly is so fun to think about going forward. Can this guy go 35-80 next year? I'm never going to say he can't do anything right now, just because the dude's a freak.
Yeah, agreed. I'm learned my lesson to not doubt what this guy can do, and still 23 years old.
Yep.
Come on, it's awesome.
Yep. And then Andy Splinter, a good listener to the show, got him in some OCs with me. He's a hell of a player. And this is a good one. Here comes another, like, we just got accustomed to certain players. Brian De La Cruz, question mark. Only 8 games, but he's been dreadful in Pittsburgh, and now he's dropping in the batting order. I'm going to try to say it's the only 8 games part to keep me insane, like sanity section. But definitely worth monitoring, because if he starts hitting the skids, you move on. And like, I dropped Lane Thomas this last week. Like, it's that time of the year. Get aggressive with your drops. Like, I dropped Lane Thomas to pick Jake McCarthy everywhere I could. Like, that was an easy trade-off for me. Now there's not going to be a Jake McCarthy on every wire, but I'd be willing to do stuff like that. If De La Cruz keeps slumping, then yeah, that's totally understandable.
Yeah, and you can look at schedules and whatnot and see what Pittsburgh has coming up. I generally lean, if the playing time's there, trust that this is just kind of a, adjustment period, whatever, and he'll be okay. But if the playing time starts to slip at all, it's Brian De La Cruz is donezo in terms of fantasy.
Yep. You can go pick up his former teammate, Jesus Sanchez, who went to Pound Town yet again on Tuesday night. So, yeah, he's just a beast, just an absolute beast. Just, it's not as consistent as he once was, but still producing in a big boy way.
All right, real quick in the chat, because our listeners are so damn awesome. We did some lookups for barrel percent and strikeout rate. Aaron Judge, shocker, does have a higher barrel rate than strikeout rate. He's the only one. So it looks like Ohtani and Seager are within 2 percentage points, which just goes to show how good Soto has been.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bonkers looking at what these guys can do these days. It's not normal, to say the least. Like, it's pretty impressive stuff. I'm gonna play with that a little bit later, but I'm curious to look at
Judge. If Judge is close, because Soto is up by 5 on barrel as a strikeout. Judge is 26% barrel, 24% K rate. So again, otherworldly, but not quite to Soto's level.
Not quite to say the least, but still pretty impressive. So yeah, we'll see how that one pans out and see where it goes. But I think end of the season, Soto and Judge, in fact, they're on the same team. We have that beer bet that I think we're pretty much agreeing. Like, technically,
I know.
Technically, you're going to win, but that's kind of like a wash when all things are said.
If that's a pretty damn good beer bet. So technically, Judge is 1 and Soto is 6. But I might just call that a draw if it stays. If Soto drops out that top 10, I might hold my ground. But that was a good beer bet that worked for both of us.
Yeah, that was a fun one, to say the least. So we'll see where that goes. But so I have a 2023 up here for fun, and it looks like Acuna outproduced a 15% barrel, 11% strikeout rate. I knew there was one guy last year. Acuna was the dude last year. So I knew it was there somewhere. Sorry, it took a while because caveman over here had to figure out how to use a computer. All right, final thoughts, Ryan, before we wrap things up. And we have a week 22 fab coming up on Thursday evening.
No, man, as predicted, once we got the flow of the show, I'm back again. I feel like a new man compared to my George Kirby start. So fun exercise, kind of taking a step back and looking at some of these guys, because sometimes we get so focused on the last month or this coming week for fab. We like that Max Kepler example, we lose some of the forest from the trees. So I don't know, that was fun.
Yep, it was fun. It was the old go, one of the go-tos, but it's always good to look at and to see where it goes from there. And year to year it's fun because a lot of us focus, myself, focus on month to month so much that maybe look at a bigger size sample and see where it goes. So definitely something to take into consideration as the season goes on. All right, but we'll wrap it up there. Again, we'll be back with you guys on Thursday to recap week 22 fab. But until next time, check out Ryan on Twitter at RyanBHQ, the podcast at Bubba Bloom Pod. I'm at BD Intric, and this is Bubba the Bloom, episode 160. Catch you all next time.